Okay. I will now call to order the joint city and county planning meeting for November 1st. Mike, would you note the attendance for the city council members, please?
Duly noted.
Okay. I'll ask the city commission, planning commission, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion and second on that. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carried. Also, is there a motion to approve the minutes from our last joint meeting?
So moved.
Okay, motion and second on the minutes. Is those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carried.
I'll call the county side to order. Now, do you want to note roll?
We have 8 members here this evening.
Thank you.
9, excuse me. With you, you're number 9.
Okay.
We can wait if you need to count again.
Approval agenda. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Vanderwall. Second by Troy. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Approval of joint minutes. Is there a motion?
Move approval.
Motion by Bartley.
Second.
Second by Gatsky. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, with that, we'll ask Mike to introduce the topic for us, please.
So the City of Brookings and Brookings County Planning Commissions have been working on an updated joint jurisdiction zoning ordinance. Throughout this process, the bodies have looked at various land use plans, current land use plans, inventories that were conducted. They've reviewed land uses within this proposed joint jurisdiction area. Consistent with South Dakota Codified Law 11.2, 11.4, and 11.6, the respective city and county planning commissions are to hold a public hearing and recommend adoption of the comprehensive land use plans for the areas included in the joint jurisdiction zoning area. So for the items tonight, the city will be recommending adoption of the 2016 Brookings County Comprehensive Land Use Plan and amendments thereto. And the Brookings County Planning Commission will be recommending adoption of the 2018 City of Brookings Comprehensive Plan and amendments thereto. This will comply with the statutory requirements. And this will, if approved tonight, will establish the land use plans for the joint jurisdiction area, and it will move on to the elected bodies of the city council and county commission. So tonight is a public hearing, and the action items are for the county to recommend adoption of the city comprehensive land use plan and the city to recommend adoption of the county's comprehensive plan. Within those respective plans, the city's identifies future land uses, not only within city limits, but outside city limits, and the county's recognizes those growth areas around municipalities, and they refer to them as transition areas. So with that, the item's been introduced, and we'd stand for any questions you may have.
Okay, having heard the behalf of the City Planning Commission to adopt the 2016 Brookings County Comprehensive Land Use Plan and amendments thereto.
So moved. Aiken.
Okay, is there a second?
Second. Jorgensen.
Okay,
Seeing they did that on the city's, up the city's comprehensive use plan and amendments there too.
I move to adopt the Brookings City Comprehensive Plan and amendments.
Motion by Vanderwall,
Second.
second by Troyan. Now we'll move to the
Okay.
public portion.
yeah, we'll
public
just have,
hearing portion.
yeah, we'll have public testimony for anyone here wishing to speak tonight on these actions. If so, please come forward to the microphone and give us your name. Anyone wishing to speak on the topics at all? Seeing none, is there questions or comments amongst the commissioners? If not, Mike, would you call the vote on the Brookings side, on the city side?
On the city side, Aiken,
Yes.
Solom, Jorgensen,
Yes.
Pierce,
Yes.
Jameson,
Yes.
Fargen.
Yes.
Motion passes.
County side.
Yes.
Paulson. Gatsky,
Yes.
Kleinjohn. Vanderwall,
Aye.
Troyan,
Aye.
Erickson, Storhog, and Ford.
Aye.
Motion passes.
We are adjourned, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Stand adjourned.
We'll get ready and start here in a minute.
Good evening and welcome to the Brookings County Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. This meeting is being recorded, televised, and viewable on Swiftel Channel 19, ITC Channel 168, or the Brookings County YouTube channel. I'll call this meeting to order. Approval of minutes, is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Troyan,
Second.
second by Vanderwall, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Items to be added to the agenda by commission members or staff.
I don't have anything except ought to be covered in the staff report.
I have nothing to add.
Invitation for citizens to schedule a time on the commission agenda for an item not listed. Seeing none, disclosure of conflicts of interest, relationships to applicant, or ex parte communication. Hearing none. Approval of agenda, is there a motion?
So move.
Motion by Paulson,
Second.
second by Vanderwall, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. We will now convene as the Brookings County Planning and Zoning Commission. And I'll call this meeting to order and would like to welcome those in attendance at tonight's meeting. The Brookings County Planning Commission is a 9-member commission whose function is to recommend approval or disapproval of land use plans, zoning ordinances, subdivision plans, and amendments thereof to the Brookings County Commission. The commission makes its recommendation based on the adopted comprehensive plan for the physical development of the unincorporated areas of Brookings County. As a matter of policy, all motions are to be made in the positive. After a motion is moved and seconded, it is open for debate. Those supporting the motion shall in turn give their reasons. Those opposing the motion shall then offer their reasons. After everyone has been given a chance to be heard, the commission shall recommend approval or disapproval based on the testimony and information presented. A simple majority vote of a quorum of members of the Planning and Zoning Board in attendance is required to forward a recommendation. Agenda item 2022, Plat 026, Plat of lots 1 and 2 of Hoyer Addition located in the southeast 1/4 of Section 1, Township 112 North, Range 52W of the 5th Prime Meridian, Brookings County, South Dakota. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Vanderwall,
Second.
second by Bartley. Richard, would you read the staff report?
Yes, 2022 Plat 026. Byron Henriksen is platting off a 20.70 acre of an existing farmstead from the 160 acres that he owns. The shape of the parcel is irregular, and Lot 1 contains 22.88 acres, which is the outbuildings and pasture. And Lot 2 is where the existing homestead is located, and it's smaller for financial purposes for the home. And Lot 2 is tied to Lot 1. The building site is being platted off for a family member. And it meets the platting requirements of the 2016 Comprehensive Plan for the Unincorporated Rural Areas Land Use Statement on page 24 of the agricultural use. This is the first page of the plat showing Lot 1 and Lot 2. This is where the residence, where the house is there. And Lot 1 and 2 are tied together. This is a proposed plat over the beacon map, over the, you can see the driveway and the house right there. This is the original size of the parcel as it is today prior to the plat, 160 acres with the building site there. And I don't believe the applicant is here this evening, and that's all that I have.
Thank you, Richard. If the applicant is not here, we'll move to the public portion of the hearing. Is there anybody in the audience that is for this? Seeing and hearing none, is there anybody in the audience that is opposed to this? Seeing and hearing none, I will now close the public portion of the hearing. Move to the board for any additional comments or questions. Seeing and hearing none, Richard, would you call the vote?
Paulson. Gatsky.
Yes.
Kleinjohn.
Aye.
Vanderwall.
Aye.
Troyan.
Aye.
Erickson. Storhog.
Aye.
Bartley.
Aye.
And Ford.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Agenda item 2022, plat 027, plat of lots 2B, 3B, and 4B, Block 2 Sunset Point Addition, and government lots 3 and 4 of Section 22, Township 112 North, Range 47W, the 5th Prime Meridian, Brookings County, South Dakota. Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion by Gatsky,
Second.
second by Bartley. Richard, would you read the staff report?
Yes, 2022, plat 027, Aaron Dale is purchasing additional land from the adjoining landowner, Blair Masonry, which owns lot 3A and 4A. The 3 lots were resurveyed to reflect that change in the property lines. It will now be known as lot 2B, 3B, and 4B. And all the lots will still contain the minimum 20,000 square feet as required in the Lake Park District. And this is a property line adjustment for all 3 lots, and it meets the comprehensive plan for the developed lakes area in the county. This is page 1 of the plat. This is the additional footage right here that he's buying just to the from this lot 3B right there. So they just shifted the property lines to the north to reflect that additional footage and still maintain the 20,000 square feet. This is just the plat over the beacon map. This is lot 2B. 3B as it is originally platted on the beacon maps now, and this is lot 4B. And the applicant is not here this evening, and that's all that I have.
Thank you, Richard. If the applicant is not here, I'll move to the public portion of the hearing. Is there anybody in the audience that is for this? Seeing and hearing none, is there anybody in the audience that is opposed to this? Seeing and hearing none, I will now close the public portion of the hearing. Is there any additional comments or questions from members of the board? Seeing and hearing none, Richard, would you call the vote?
Yes, Gatsky,
Yes.
Kleinjohn,
Aye.
Vanderwall,
Aye.
Troyan,
Aye.
Erickson, Storhog,
Aye.
Bartley,
Aye.
Paulson,
Aye.
and Ford.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Moving on, agenda item 2022, plat 028, plat of block 1 of Langner Edition in the south half of the southwest 1/4 of section 6, township 110 north, range 49W, the 5th primary of Brookings County, South Dakota. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Vanderwall.
Second.
Second by Kleinjohn. Richard, would you read the staff report?
Yes, 2022, plat 028. Mike and Kathy McClemmons are planning off 13.1 acres of a historical 1901 homestead from the 48.96 acres they own. It meets the platting requirements of the comprehensive plan on page 24 for the agricultural use. This is the plat. This is the 11 acres that they're platting off from the rest of the 35 would be right here, the balance of the parcel. This shows on the beacon map, block 1, the 11.1 acres. This is a 1901 historical homestead map showing the building site right here, where it is, where the proposed plat is. And this is the parcel now as it contains 48 acres, I believe. This would be 11 acres right here. I'm just going to square that off. And this is still 35 acres, so that is also a buildable lot, being it contains 35 acres. The applicant is not here this evening, and that's all that I have.
Thank you, Richard. If the applicant isn't here, I'll move to the public portion of the hearing. Is there anybody in the audience that is for this? Seeing none, is anybody in the audience that is opposed to this? Seeing and hearing none, I'll close the public portion of the hearing. Move to the board for additional comments, questions. Seeing and hearing none, Richard, would you call the vote?
Klein John. Vanderwall.
Aye.
Troyan.
Aye.
Erickson. Storhog.
Aye.
Bartley.
Aye.
Paulson.
Aye.
Gatsky.
Aye.
And Ford.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Moving on, agenda item 2022, Plat 029, plat of Block 1 of Lighty Edition in the northwest 1/4 of Section 21, Township 110 North, Range 51W of the 5th Primary, Brookings County, South Dakota. Is there a motion?
So move.
Motion by Paulson.
Second.
Who had that? Storhog? Second by Storhog. Richard, would you read staff report?
Yes, 2022 Plat 029, Leidy Properties LLC is platting off 11.1 acres of an existing homestead from the 160 acres they own. The shape of the parcel is irregular, and the access will be off of US Highway 14. And the building site is being platted off for a family member. Access easement was added to the original plat from when it first came in for access to the farm ground on both sides of the driveway. This was a requirement from the South Dakota DOT, with the main access being off US Highway 14. And it does meet the plating requirements for the agricultural use of the comprehensive plan. This is the updated first page, was the access easement noted right here for the driveway, for the farm ground on either side here. Irregular shape of the plat, you'll see in a minute. This is the proposed plat on the beacon map going around the trees with the irregular shape. And this is the beacon map showing the whole quarter. This is the proposed building site that they're platting off. The applicant is not here this evening, and that's all that I have.
Thank you, Richard. If the applicant not here, we'll move to the public portion of the hearing. Is there anybody in the audience that is for this? Seeing and hearing none, is there anybody in the audience that is opposed to this? Seeing and hearing none, I'll close the public portion of the hearing. Is there any additional comments or questions from members of the board? Seeing and hearing none, Richard, would you call the vote?
Vanderwall.
Aye.
Troyan.
Aye.
Erickson. Storhog.
Aye.
Bartley. Paulson.
Aye.
Gatsky.
Aye.
Klein John.
Aye.
And Ford.
Aye.
Motion passes.
We will now convene as the Brookings County Board of Adjustment. The Board of Adjustment is a 9-member board which has the power to hear requests for variances, conditional use, and appeals from the non-ministerial decisions of the zoning officer. The concurring vote of 2/3 of the full board membership of the board, 6 votes is necessary for approval of a variance or an appeal of the zoning officer. The concurring vote of a simple majority of those board members present and voting is necessary for approval of a conditional use permit. In accordance with Robert's Rules of Orders, we require a motion to approve a request before a request can be debated. As a matter of policy, all motions are to be made in the positive. The board, under specific powers granted to it by the state, shall authorize variances from zoning requirements where special conditions existing on the land will result in unnecessary hardship for the applicant. Financial disadvantage to the property owner shall not constitute proof of an unnecessary hardship. Agenda item 2022 variance 020. Elizabeth Yoshida has made an application 2022 variance 020 to the Brookings County Board of Adjustment for a variance Article 11, Section 11.01A Agricultural District Area Regulation Number 2, front yard. The minimum depth of front yard shall be 100 feet. A corner lot shall have 2 front yards. The property is described as the northeast 1/4 of the northwest 1/4 of Section 16, Township 110, North, Range 49W, Aurora Township, located at 47429 210th Street, Aurora, South Dakota 57002. Is there a motion? Motion by Vanderwall,
Second.
second by Gatsky. Richard, would you read the staff report?
Yes, 2022 variance 020, Elizabeth Yoshida has applied for a front yard variance to build a 32-foot wide, 40-foot long pole shed with a 12-foot sidewall, 75 feet from the center of 210th Street, a variance of 58 feet. The required setback is 133 feet from the center of the road. 210th Street is an Aurora Township gravel road. The proposed structure will meet the side and rear setback requirements. The lay of the land drops off to a lower boggy area, which is near and where the floodplain starts. The location of the proposed building is not in the floodplain. Some things to consider would be the lay of the land and the proximity to the floodplain. Public notices were published in the Brookings Register on October 18th and 25th, 2022, and adjoining letters were sent to the adjoining landowners and the Aurora Township Chairman and Clerk. Here's the applicant's variance application. With the site plan, noting the road, other buildings there in the building site. This would be the proposed location of the structure. This is just a elevation drawing of what her proposed building would look like. Here's the beacon map. The red area is the floodplain. This is the proposed area where her building would be constructed. This area is not in the floodplain right here. This is just looking west from her, the east driveway of her place. This is looking south towards the proposed location, which would be right here in this area. This is looking east from the driveway on 210th Street. Clear vision either direction. This is just looking from the east driveway, looking towards the east. This would be the start of where the building would be constructed. Just to the north of that little shelter that's there. And this would be the south side of the proposed structure. Just even with the grain bin. And this is looking towards the southeast from where the location where the wheel is. And this area right here drops off to a boggy lower area. And that's where the floodplain starts, right in there. This area is 1 to 2 feet higher than what this is, just by eyeballing it on there, so it is in a higher location. I mean, kind of see the ridge right here where that elevation drops off and boggy, and then land raises up right here. So that's all I have, and the applicant is here this evening. So
You said the applicant is here?
yes, she is.
Would the applicant please step forward, have a seat, and clearly state your name into the mic as long as the green light's on.
Beth Yoshida.
Do you have anything to add to Richard's report?
I don't. That was a great report. Thank you. Yeah. I guess, yeah, I would like to say that, you know, building with our lovely red land there on the beacon map, it makes me chuckle remembering the flood, but we would really like to keep this building up a little bit higher and to keep it in line with the house and the machine shed that are also needed a Board of Adjustments approval to build those. Yeah, we would just like to aesthetically keep it in line, keep it out of the floodplain so that we can continue to use it and use it especially when we need to when everything's wet. So.
Thank you. Is there any questions from members of the board at this time? Seeing none, I'll move to the public portion of the public hearing portion quickly here. Is there anybody in the audience that is for this? Seeing and hearing none, is there anybody in the audience that is opposed to this? Seeing and hearing none, I'll now close the public hearing. Is there any additional comments or questions from members of the board?
Mr. Chair, could I ask a question, just to follow up from what was mentioned here? Luke Muller, First District staff. I just wanted to double check. It sounded like she had mentioned, have there been variances or building permits issued on this property before for the house and whatever's there? Do you know off the top of your head?
Yes, they were. I don't recall the exact dates, but they have been within the last 10 to 12 years, probably.
Okay, the main thing that I was going to mention, if that's the case, just from a standpoint of a board perspective, and you're probably well aware of this too, if you granted variances indicating there is a hardship on the property, requiring the construction of buildings as close as they are, it's going to be pretty hard to say that this one can't be.
Any comments or questions from members of the board? Seeing none, Richard, would you read the findings of facts?
Yes, Brookings County zoning variance 2022, variance 020, an application for variance having been filed with the Brookings County Zoning Commission, acting as a Brookings County Board of Adjustment, a copy of the application being attached here too. Such application being made by Elizabeth Loshita regarding the following real property: the northeast 1/4 of the northwest 1/4 of Section 16, Township 110 North, Range 49 West, Aurora Township, located at 47429 210th Street, Aurora, South Dakota, 57002. After due notice of public hearing having been held on the application on this first day of November 2022, number one, the Brookings County Board of Adjustment hereby finding that the strict application of the Brookings County zoning ordinance would produce undue hardship, that such hardship is not shared generally by other properties in the same district and the same vicinity, that the authorization of such variance will not be of substantial detriment to the adjacent property and the character of the district will not be changed by the granting of the variance, and that the granting of such variance is based upon reasons of demonstrable and exceptional hardship are distinguished from variations for the purpose of convenience, profit, and caprice. Number two, the Brookings County Board of Adjustment further finding that the condition or situation of the property concerned or the intended use of the property is not so general or reoccurring in nature as to make reasonable, practicable the formulation of a general regulation to be adopted as an amendment to the zoning ordinance. Number three, the Brookings County Board of Adjustment further finding that the written application of the petitioner demonstrates that special conditions and circumstances exist which are peculiar to the land, structure, or buildings in the same district, that literal interpretation of the provisions of the Brookings County zoning ordinance would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the same district under the terms of this ordinance. Special conditions and circumstances do not result from the actions of the applicant, and that the granting of the variance requested will not confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied by the ordinance to other lands, structures, or buildings in the same district. Number four, the Brookings County Board of Adjustment further finding that the reasons set forth in the application justify the granting of the variance, and that the variance is minimum variance that will make possible the reasonable use of the land, building, or structures, that granting of the variance will be in harmony with the general purpose and the intent of the Brookings County zoning ordinance, will not be injurious to the neighborhood or otherwise detrimental detrimental to the public welfare. Number five, Brookings County Board of Adjustment further determines and conditions this variance upon the following special conditions or safeguards. A, lay of the land drops off to a lower boggy area. Floodplain starts south of the boggy area. B, area where the proposed building is to be built is higher in elevation and is out of the floodplain. And C, no correspondent has been received from Aurora Township. The Brookings County Board of Adjustment, by at least 2/3 vote of its full membership, hereby grants the above petitioner variance for the above described real property as follows. Build a 32-foot wide by 40-foot long with a 12-foot sidewall, pole shed 75 feet from the center of 210th Street on Aurora Township Road, a variance of 58 feet. This variance is specifically conditioned upon initial and continued compliance with all the conditions and safeguards in 5 above upon compliance with all applicable provisions of the Brookings County zoning ordinance. If approved, the Brookings County zoning ordinance is authorized to issue any required building permits for construction consistent with the terms of this variance. If this variance is not used within 3 years of the date granted, it shall be invalid. Dated this first day of November 2022.
Is there any additions or corrections to the findings of facts?
Mr. Chairman, I concur with the findings and the facts.
Thank you, Mr. Troyan. Richard, would you call the vote?
Yes, Troyan.
Yes.
Erickson.
Aye.
Sturhog.
Aye.
Bartley.
Aye.
Paulson.
Aye.
Gadsky.
Aye.
Kleinjohn. Vanderwall.
Aye.
And Ford.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, and then you can stop by tomorrow and get your building permit if you'd like. We've got a piece of paper here for you too.
To the Brookings County Board of Adjustment for Conditional Use Article 4, District Requirements, Chapter 4.03 LP, Lake Park District, Section 4.03.02, Conditional Use Permit Number 6, accessory buildings with a sidewall greater than 14 feet or more than 2,000 square feet and used as an accessory building greater than 120 square feet. The property is described as the northeast 1/4 of the northeast 1/4 and Government Lot 6, except the platted area in Section 28, Township 109 North, Range 50W, Madera Township. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Vanderwall, second by Paulson. Richard, would you read staff report?
Yes. 2022 CU 015 Derek and Cheryl Kelgen by Dustin Koopman of Caliber LLC, their contractor, has applied for Lake Park District conditional use to build an accessory building with a sidewall height greater than 14 feet and larger than 2,000 square feet. The proposed accessory building is 48 foot wide and 80 foot long with a 16-foot sidewall, which is 3,840 square feet, with a 36-foot wide by 56 addition with a 10-foot sidewall, which is 2,016 square feet, for a total of 5,856 square feet. The proposed 48 by 80 structure will be used for storage of recreational and personal vehicles, and the proposed 36 by 56 addition is a large room with bathroom, fireplace, game room, offices, mechanical room, and a large outdoor patio to the south. The proposed accessory building will be located on a large 57.19 acre non-lakefront parcel on the east side of Lake Campbell. The area of the proposed building is in the Lake Park zoning district, and the Lake Park zoned area is on a ridge on the west portion of the parcel, and on the east portion of the parcel is zoned agricultural, with the majority of the agricultural land being in the floodplain. The property is one large parcel and has not been subdivided into smaller non-lakefront lots and is currently being farmed. The applicant also has plans to build a residence south of the proposed accessory building, as noted on the site plans. The proposed accessory building will meet the setback requirements of 25 feet from the road and 8 feet from the front and rear property lines and 8 feet from the side. Some things to consider are the size of the lot. It's 57.19 acres. It's located on the back side of an existing lakeside development on Lake Campbell and mature trees on the south and west sides of the property. Public notices were published in the Brookings Register on October 18th and 25th, 2022, and letters were sent to the adjoining landowners and the Madera Township Chairman and Clerk. Here's the applicant's conditional use request, or conditional use application, I should say, excuse me. Here's their site plan. North Shore Drive to the north where the driveway would be. So this is where the proposed accessory building would be, 805 feet from North Shore Drive, 1,339 feet from 469th Avenue, 105 feet from the rear property line and 420 feet from the south property line. This is a proposed floor plan of the structure. This is a 48 by 80 structure right here. Garage doors on the east end, washroom area and bathroom, I believe, on this part. This is the recreational area, bathroom, big open area, golf simulator here, offices on the west side, fireplace, and this is open. This would open up to a large outdoor patio right here to the south. This is what the proposed structure would look like. And this is a site plan. They do plan on building a residence on the property too, at a later date or in the near future. This is where the proposed accessory building would go. The proposed future home residence would be to the south of that area. This is the beacon map showing the zoning on there. The yellow area is the Lake Park zoned area, 1,000 feet out from the lake. So the balance of this would be agricultural, and the red area is the floodplain area. So just a little narrow strip that is not in the floodplain. This is a ridge right here where the house would be built. This is where access would be off 218th Street or North Shore Drive is what it is named. This is the beacon map showing the large parcel. And this would be the proposed location of the accessory building and residence. And this is looking east from the existing driveway, paved road there. This is looking south from the driveway towards the proposed accessory building. This will be looking towards the west. This is looking south-southeast towards the open area from the driveway towards the field. Same thing here. This is up on the ridge where it shows proposed. This would be the north side of the building right here where the stakes are. This is the rear stake here. This would be 105 feet from the rear property line, which would be over here. And this is just looking from the west property line back to the east where the wheel is located there. And this would be the south half of the proposed building, the recreational part on there. This would be the south wall of the main building, the 48 by 80 structure. And this would be looking back towards the northeast from the staked out area. This just looking from the corner of 469th and North Shore Drive, looking back towards the proposed site. This would be the ag land, and up here in the ridge is where the building would be located in the Lake Park zoned area. That's all that I have. The applicant's contractor is here this evening, so.
Thank you, Richard. If the applicant or the contractor would like to step forward. Have a seat and clearly state your name, please.
Dustin Cotman?
Do you have anything to add to Richard's report?
I don't think so. You did a good job.
Is there any questions from members of the board at this time? Seeing none, I'll move to the public hearing portion. Is there anybody in the audience that is for this? Seeing none, is there anybody in the audience that is opposed to this? Seeing none, I'll now close the public portion of the hearing and move back to the board for additional comments or questions.
Mr. Chair, just a couple of questions as we look at the particular building design for this particular building and not necessarily the house. I assume that you'll build the house rather soon, or that's just in
we
the
hope
future?
to start both of them in the spring. We're just not done planning the house yet.
When we look at this particular structure and its layout, and it's very nice, it reminds me of what we would call a shop house. so to speak, being built living quarters with a garage attached to it. And if we did that, we would require a firewall, obviously, between the living quarters and the garage part of it. Is there anything in the plans for a fire wall in there at all between the garage and the
We,
party room? We won't
yeah,
call it
we
living
do
quarters.
intend to do a 5/8 drywall around the perimeter and on the ceiling of the smaller building. But as far as like a firewall, like a multiple layers of drywall, is that kind of what you're asking?
Yeah.
Like, no,
It
I
would
guess,
meet, it would meet code. Basically.
yeah. No, we don't, nobody intends to sleep in it, so I guess we didn't design it that way. But, you know, if it was required, I suppose we could.
I guess my only concern is, while it's not designed to be slept in, it's a fairly nice
No,
interior design with office 1, office 2 look like bedrooms.
yeah. No, they don't intend to use them. So they were drawn as bedrooms, and we talked to Richard, and he said, well, that's not going to be possible. So I talked to my clients, and they said, no, that's fine. Well, we can. He said that one of them was going to be used as an office anyway. So then he's like, well, we could just plan on using both of them as offices and not having any sleeping rooms in that, because the house will have sufficient bedrooms. So it's more so just there's going to be an outdoor pool area between the house and this building, and the pool is going to come like right up to that patio. So this is going to be like just kind of a fun area for people to hang out, and there's a golf simulator in there, and then he's going to have the offices and yeah, the residence will be a future.
I guess I look at it as this would be a guest house almost, if with bed. I mean, it's got a shower, tub, washer, dryer. It's got everything that is a house except for the designation that it's office 1 and office 2.
Yeah. Well, they don't intend to use it as a guest house. If
And
there's
they're fully-
something,
Are they fully aware of the consequences if they do
Yeah.
put a bedroom in there?
yeah,
that
I did
this
talk
has
to
to
them
be
about
platted
that.
off into it.
Richard let me know, and I told them that, and they said, okay, that's fine with us. So, yeah, they're fully aware of the fact that they can't have that as a residence. They can't sleep in there.
I guess one of my concerns is because of the size of this in the Lake Park District, and we don't allow it, and the hardship is what? I'm coming up with one. Hardship is we have a large piece of land and we want to use it all, I guess is the only hardship I can come up with, and whether that qualifies as one, I'm not sure. My second question, Richard, as I'm sitting here looking at this right now, and this large piece of property, could it be platted off as 35 acres with the garage, and then you still got plenty to build the house on, if down the road, someone wanted to split the property and say, I want to make that a house. I want to make that a house. I want to live there. And because I got 15 cars. Is it possible that they could come in with the existing structure and plat it off as 35 acres and consider it a home?
Yes, they could either do 35 acres or platted, this is located in the Lake Park District. They could plat it into a minimum of 20,000 square foot lot. And they could still convert this into a living quarters if they wanted to
In the future,
in the future. But it would have to be separate from the main house.
yeah.
I mean, I'm not trying to throw ideas out here. I'm trying to think
Yeah.
long-term as we build this, and let's hit to a 20,000 square foot lot with a house that's a house, whatever you want to call it, that's much bigger than what we would allow on other lots if it
Yeah.
were developed. I don't want to see a castle in the middle of other things we can't develop, because all of a sudden then we have to start approving all those as we go down the road because
Yeah.
we gave it to one, we have to give it to others. And I know nobody can predict the future.
Yeah.
My only concern was that it has what look like bedrooms, and you're going to say they're offices, and I'll take you at your word
Yeah.
for it. And as long as I understand the consequences of legal battles we would have with them
Yeah.
over that being a living quarters, even for overnight guests.
Yeah, yeah. So I will relay that back to them again, stress the importance of that. But they did, yeah, we did already talk about that, and I'll let them know that that was a concern at this meeting. So,
Yeah, we have some of that in our findings of facts, that it can't be used as a convention hall, party facility of, can't remember exact word, but it's in the findings of fact here. private use of the owner. Can't be used as a commercial event facility hall. That's prohibited unless they come in for a permit for that, so.
Okay.
All right, and they understand that also, I'm sure.
Yep.
That's the end of my questions.
I got a question, Chad. In a concurrence and agreement with Mike on this drywall separation for the firewall, I know of one incident in our county that is potentially going to cause Richard and the county some headaches, where they built it as a showme, and they never put a firewall in. You know, when you do the incremental cost of construction, it's not that much to put another sheet of sheetrock in between the two. And what's happened is, Richard is probably familiar with this site, goes back a couple of years, but this individual is going to sell it, and they plan totally on selling it as a shop house, but they can never occupy it even though they are today. And it's in violation. It causes a lot of headaches.
Okay.
And sheetrock is not that expensive.
It's a lot easier to do it now than later.
Yeah, because they got to tear all the metal off the entire shop, entire wall, and now they're going to have to come back and finish it with sheetrock. I'm not sure if we can amend this to accept it based on sheetrock, but I just think you need to really take that into strong consideration, because you don't know the future, and this person built it. And from a valuation standpoint of what I do, you know, it's just a shop. You can't occupy it. So just caution and concurrence with Mike's concern is very valid, because this area can be subdivided and they can plat it off. And there's not going to be a hardship on this. And I have a hard time understanding the hardship here, but the fact is you should really just take that into consideration. And I don't know how it confers with us accepting this, but that sheetrock today is your incremental cost. It's not that expensive.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm completely open to doing that.
Board, if I might add something, Mr. Chair, Luke Muller here. Two things. I've got to double check, but as I was checking, and I'll kind of work backwards here. This is a conditional use permit to have a sidewall greater than 14 feet. So in the case of conditional use permits, those are listed allowable uses in the ordinance, so there is no need for a hardship in those cases. So the good news is you don't have to find one. So from that respect, that burden of proof is kind of flipped onto you got to find a reason why this would not fit, as opposed to the other way around. So from that standpoint, that's good. One of the things that I do want you to keep in mind, though, is this discussion of the firewall, and I honestly am not going to make the call for you, because there's two ways to look at it. One, your ordinance does not allow anyone to occupy an accessory structure, and that's what Mr. Kottman and Richard have been discussing. So that's where the temptation to actually, if you do add the required firewall, well, then there's really nothing stopping that other than just someone calling and complaining into Richard. On the other hand, to the commissioners, both the commissioners' points here, on the flip side, it's going to be harder to retrofit it. So the fact of the matter is, it's really up to you guys as to whether or not you see that that's a requirement. It's, again, totally up to you, but if I were to make the suggestion, I think that I would probably leave it more up to the contractors to whether they want to do that at this time, because the secondary question to that is, for them to occupy that as a residence, they're going to have to plat it separately from the other house. So you're going to get another bite at that apple in the future. Sorry, a lot of words to say. Don't worry about it.
Thank you, Luke. Is there any additional comments or questions from members of the board? Seeing and hearing none, Richard, would you read the findings of facts?
Yes. And then today I did update the findings, and I did add that 5/8 sheetrock to that, so you can, as when we get to that point, if you decide you want to leave it in there or take it out, that it's entirely up to you, so. Brookings County Zoning Conditional Use Permit 2022 CU 015, Brookings County Zoning Commission acting as the Brookings County Board of Adjustment, a copy of the application being attached here too. Such application being made by Derek and Cheryl Keljan by Dustin Koopman of Caliber LLC regarding the following real property: the northeast 1/4 of the northeast 1/4 in Government Lot 6, except platted area in Section 28, Township 109 North, Range 50 West, Madera Township. After due notice of public hearing having been held on the application on this first day of November 2022. Number one, the Brookings County Board of Adjustment hereby finding that it is empowered to grant such a conditional use under the following sections of the Brookings County zoning ordinance. Article 4, District Requirements, Chapter 4.03, LP, Lake Park District. Section 4.0302, Conditional Use Permit Number 6. And further finding that the granting of the conditional use will not adversely affect the public interest. Number 2, the Brookings County Board of Adjustment further finding and certifies that the following specific rules governing the conditional use have been complied with. None stated. Number 3, the Brookings County Board of Adjustment further finds that satisfactory provisions and arrangements have been made concerning the following where applicable. A, entrance and exits to the property or proposed structure therein with particular reference to automotive and pedestrian safety and convenience, traffic flow and control, and access in case of fire or catastrophe. Main entrance will be off North Shore Drive, which also is known as 218th Street. B, off-street parking and loading areas were required with particular attention to the items in A above and economic noise, glare, or other effects of the conditional use on adjoining properties and the properties generally in the district. No on-street parking allowed. C, utilities, refuge, and service areas with reference to locations, availability, and compatibility. Dumpster service required for garbage disposal. That's kind of a standard we have in there for all the conditional uses and different things like that. So I would imagine that the applicant would have a dumpster out there for their garbage. So D, screening and buffering with reference to type, dimensions, and character. None stated. E, signs, if any, proposed exterior lighting with reference to glare, traffic safety, economic effect, and compatibility and harmony of the properties in the district. None stated. F, required yards and other open spaces. None stated. G, general compatibility with adjacent properties and other properties in the district. Comprehensive plan met for the Lake Park District. H, roads providing access to the property are adequate to meet the transportation demands of the proposed conditional use. The Board of Adjustment may require the applicant to enter in a written contract with any affected township or other governmental unit regarding the upgrading and continued maintenance of any roads or conditional use requested prior to the issue of a conditional use. None stated. I, require notifications to the law enforcement or fire department. None stated. J, any safety inspections required. None stated. Number 4, the Brookings County Board of Adjustment determines in the conditions of this conditional use upon the following additional special conditions or safeguards. A, the non-lakefront land parcel area is 57.19 acres. B, the building will be used for storage of personal, recreational, and personal vehicles in a family recreational area. C, this permit authorizes the use of the structure for private use by the owner of the property. The use of this structure as a commercial event hall or facility is prohibited unless or until an appropriate permit is obtained. D, no sleeping quarters to be constructed in the building. E, no commercial storage. F, firewall separation between the garage area and the family recreation area. I just thought of this today and I added that in there, so that was additional one to the ones you've seen. The Brookings County Board of Adjustment, by at least a majority vote of its full member present, hereby grants the above petitioner a conditional use for the above described property as follows. Build a 48-foot wide by 80-foot long accessory building with a 16-foot sidewall for personal and recreational storage, with a 36-foot wide by 56-foot long with a 10-foot sidewall family recreation area. This conditional use is specifically conditioned upon initial and continued compliance with all the requirements and conditions in 3 and 4 above, and upon compliance with all applicable provisions of the Brookings County zoning ordinance. If approved, the Brookings County Zoning Director is authorized to issue any required building permits for construction consistent with the requirements of this conditional use. If this conditional use permit is not used within 3 years of the date granted, it shall be invalid. Dated this first day of November 2022.
Going back up, Richard, to the firewall, I think we should take that out. I think that becomes your discussion with the owners, whether or not they feel it's necessary. If they ever want to do something in the future, as we discussed, it would be, as Brian said, cheaper to do it now than try and sell it as a piece of property somebody else could do something with and would have to put that in. So, but I don't think we really need that in there if you'd all agree.
Is there any additional comments on the findings of facts?
Could I just make one point to that? Do you, and maybe it's a question more than anything, would you require a building permit if they did install a firewall, say in the future, this was split off and then they decided to make it into a living space? Would that require a building permit?
We probably would in this case, just to document it, that it was.
I guess my point is maybe you replace F with a note that conversion of this into a dwelling unit would require a building permit. Maybe you want to add that instead. That way you can guarantee that future property owners would know that they have to come in and obviously comply with the ordinance. They can't do it if it's on the same lot as another house.
Building permit and a plat, then?
I'd say
Goes hand in hand with the building permit, basically. Lot size or.
in reality, if we want to talk through it, in reality, they could plat off the portion that the new house is going to be on, and then this remains unplatted.
Yeah.
So in reality, I mean, I'd say the building permit is the most important, and let future versions of Richard and you guys figure that part out.
And should we put in there and separation from the main house, or leave it at this? So that's, look, they wouldn't get a building permit if the house, to convert it if the house was still on the property, so a building permit would be denied, so.
Yeah.
Kind of goes without saying then.
Or do we want to have another, we don't want to leave it to the aspect that if they think they get a building permit for sleeping quarters, they can do that without splitting off the house. Or how, see what I'm getting at, Luke?
I do. Maybe you do have to have that as a separate, that it's got to be platted too. Needs a permit and subdivided in accordance with the Brookings County subdivision ordinance.
Yep. Lot size. if there's a bedroom in there.
That's a good question because the offices are sized to what a bedroom size is. So
That wouldn't make any difference. If they go out, the assessor goes out there and says there's a bedroom in there, that would open up the avenue for us to pursue action against that.
It could be as someone who's been there before, and it could be as small as saying, no, you move out. It could be as large as saying, rip that building down. Usually it's the former, not the latter.
Is there any other additions or corrections to the findings of facts?
I concur with your finding of fact.
Thank you, Mr. Gatsky. Richard, would you call roll?
Yes, Erickson. Storhog.
Yes.
Bartley.
Aye.
Paulson.
Aye.
Gatsky.
Aye.
Kleinjohn. Vanderwall.
Aye.
Troyan.
Aye.
And Ford.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Moving on, department reports.
Yep.
Yeah, we've got just a piece of paper here for you, then you can step in tomorrow and get your building permit if you'd like.
The winter is coming. Today was an oddity that you may not see again until next April, May, June, July. The board members that their terms were up have been reappointed, and the county commission thanks the whole board for your service, and that's all I've got. Richard, do you have anything to add?
Not at this time. Building permits are back up to ahead of last year, so things kind of picked up a little bit towards midsummer and late fall here. So we're getting quite a few applicants coming in now to get building permits for their buildings that were damaged in the derecho in May. So that's all that I have.
Thank you. Luke, do you have any words of wisdom, short ones?
I've said everything I know that sounds smart.
Usually doesn't. Is there any need for an executive session this evening?
No, sir.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion to adjourn, meeting adjourned.